another Mad Movie Mark movie review. Thank you for joining me as I review the 1954 French film noir Touchez Pas Au Grisbi.
Bon, ben, je vous accompagne, mais sans engagement, hein.
Well, I know that your time is precious, and I appreciate anyone who views my channel for whatever length of time you're able to. I'm reviewing every movie that has 100% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm giving them all a score of 1 to 10. After I watch them and score them all, I will come out with a list that ranks them from worst to best. I started in the 1920 silent movie era, and now I'm at 1954 with Touchez Pas Au Grisbi. I believe in the US it was just released as Grisby. And one thing that this movie delivers are slaps a second. There's tons of slaps in this movie. Jean Gabin is just slap happy through the entire thing. This movie has a 100% fresh rating from the critics and an 86% fresh rating from the audience, so they just go a little bit bigger than 85. It stars Jean Gabin as Max, Rene Dary as Henri Riton, Dora Dahl as Lola, and Lino Ventura as Angelo. Now, when I was watching this movie, I don't do a lot of research for these movies. Well, I just want to get in there and watch them. As soon as I saw Max, I said, that guy is familiar. That's the guy who was in Pepe Le Moco. And I was correct. And I was extremely excited at that point because I gave Pepe Le Moco a 9.5. This is like almost, 20 years after he did that movie. And as I read more into it, and it said that this was a movie that kind of jump-started his career. I think that's fantastic because I'm going to be watching The French Can in a few weeks, which he also did. So I'm really happy to see more movies with him. I think that he's a really great actor. And in this movie, he plays almost the same type of role as he did in Pepe Le Moco. So in this movie, he plays a retired mob guy, a retired thief. And he and his friend Henri Riton, they did this really big caper at an airport where they stole millions of dollars in gold bars. And now he's just trying to retire, and he's trying to take this money and go away with it. He wants to wait a little while because they stole it not too long ago, and he doesn't want to spend the money right away. He doesn't want to make big waves. He kind of wants the money to sit there and just people to forget about it over time. And then he's going to take the money, take the gold, he's going to take the gold and spend it and retire and live the rest of his life, which was a lot like Pepe Le Moco. In Pepe Le Moco, he was a criminal who was in the Casbah, and he couldn't leave the main town because the cops knew where he was hiding, and if he left into the main square, he would have been caught and arrested. And he also wanted to get away from the crime world. He wanted to, retire and get out on his own. Only in this movie, he's like 20 years older, so maybe it makes a little more sense that he wants to retire in this movie. So I've already given away a little bit of the plot, but let me backtrack a little bit. So like I said, Max is a older gentleman. He is a thief. Him and his friend Henry, they've stolen, I believe it's $50 million in gold bars. Now, in the beginning of the movie, Max is at this, he's at like this nightclub. He gets his friend Marco a job at the nightclub where they're basically dealing drugs.
Hello, cherche quelqu'un pour vendre sa cam. Oui, mais Pierrot, il en veut pas de son personnel. Alors j'ai pensé à toi. Si ça marche, t'as qu'à monter au bureau puis t'arranger avec eux, ils t'attendent.
Also working at this nightclub is a friend of theirs named Angelo. Now, when Max is there, he kind of goes to see his girlfriend, who is much younger than he is. She's one of the dancers at the club, and so is her friend. Her name is Josie, and she is the girlfriend of Henri Riton. So they both have girlfriends who are much, much younger than they are. So he goes to see his girlfriend, and what he sees Josie and Angelo kind of making out with each other, and obviously doing what they shouldn't be doing with each other, considering she's dating Henry. So he keeps it to himself at first. He doesn't say anything, and he just goes about his life. Now, when he's going home, he's trailed by two guys, and the taxi driver, as he's driving him home, kind of can tell that this car is following them.
Ah, c'est fendant, il y a une ambulance qui a l'air de nous filer le train depuis Pigalle.
Hein?
J'ai cru d'abord qu'ils allaient à l'hôpital Bichat, mais sûrement qu'ils vont à Marmottan.
Pousse donc une petite pointe en hypocrite pour voir.
Max says, do a couple turns around, go a little bit faster just to make sure this guy is actually following us. And this guy is following him. So when Max gets back to his home, he's able to corner these guys, he's able to surprise them, and he's able to be like, hey, Like, I know you guys are following me. You need to stop that. These guys say, oh, we're not following you. We're trying to follow someone else. And then they run away.
Alors, monsieur Ramon, c'est un nouveau jeu? Moitié rallye ambulance, moitié surprise partie, hein?
Max, je te jure qu'on n'allait pas chez toi.
Tiens, non, vous alliez peut-être chez la sage-femme, hein?
Now, Max is a little jolted here, and seeing that Josie was with Angelo and Josie was also with Henry, he starts to get this idea that maybe Henry told Josie something about this gold. So he tells Max is having a meeting with Angelo, and he calls up Max. He says, hey, look, you got to stop this meeting. Tell them you don't want to do it. Make up some excuse, whatever you have to do. Just meet me at this certain place. I'll pick you up, and then we're going to go driving somewhere. So Henry brushes Angelo off. He goes and he meets Max. Max gets him in his car, and Max is driving him to this secret hideout that no one knows about. So when Max gets to the secret hideout, he takes Angelo to the parking garage. And in the parking garage, there's a car. And inside the trunk of the car are the $50 million in gold bars that he has hidden in the car.
Et voilà notre tirelire. J'ai filé notre Grisbi dans des caisses à cartouches. Ouais, il y a 2 lingots par valoche. C'est 24 kilos, alors comme ça, c'est plus facile à porter.
Now, Henry's all like, oh, so you're just going to leave these bars here where anyone can take them? This is a terrible idea. And Max says, well, no one's stolen these bars so far, and I'm actually laying low with this. I have a place to hide out. I have a place to hold the gold. I'm keeping my end of the deal. No one knows about this gold. Now, I can't say the same thing for you. And Henry says, well, what are you talking about? So they go up to Max's apartment. They leave the car. When they get to Max's apartment, the hideout apartment, Max basically tells Henry that he saw Angelo and Josie together and that Josie is just kind of using him. And he kind of says, did you tell Josie about this money? Is this something that you, like, assuming that he told Josie about the money to brag about it. Henry confesses and said, you know, I was trying to look like a big man to her, and I did tell her that we did this big job and that we got all this money, and I told her that it's worth about $50 million. And of course, Max is like very upset by this because this was supposed to be a secret. Now, Max wanted the gold bars to sit there for a while. He wanted to sit on it, and he wanted the heat to get off of them, and he wanted to be able to, you know, take these gold bars and trade them in for notes, like bill notes, at a much later time than he has to now, but now his hand is kind of forced. So he tells Henry, okay, so what I'm going to do is we're going to go down together tomorrow. I have my relative who works at the bank. We're going to turn these gold bars in for banknotes, and then we're going to split the money, and we're going to, you know, go our separate ways, and I'm going to retire. So Henry is fine with this idea, but then later that morning, the next morning, Henry kind of leaves. Now Max wakes up and he sees that Henry's gone, and he says, well, you know, what can I do? This guy really, he said stuff he wasn't supposed to say. I'm left in this really awkward position. So whatever happened to Henry happens to him. I'm going to take this gold, I'm going to turn it in for banknotes, and I'm going to be on my way, and Henry can shove off. Who cares about that guy? But then as he starts to think about it, he starts thinking that that's not really what he wants to do. He doesn't want to turn his back on Henry. So what he's going to do is he is going to find out where he is, and he's going to make sure he brings him in. But he does go that morning. He goes and he gives the gold to his relative just so his relative can hold the gold at the bank.
C'est ton turban, non? Alors dis-moi plutôt combien que tu m'en donnes.
35 millions.
Tu l'envoies un peu loin le bouchon, toi. 35 briques, il y en a pour 50.
Bien sûr, au cours, avec certificat d'origine.
Now he wants 50 million for it, but he's offered much less. He's offered like 25, 30 million. And that's because he doesn't have proper paperwork for it. And now his relative has to be able to get rid of the gold and, you know, melt it down and do whatever he has to do. So it's a much harder process for him if he doesn't have the correct paperwork. authorization and stuff like that. So he offers Max a lot less money. Like, what is Max going to do? He's really in a tough situation where this is the guy that he was going to get this done. So he really has no other choice. So he says that he'll take the money. Of course, the relative doesn't have just the money sitting around. He has to go get the money. He has to move stuff around. So he says, it's going to be a while before I can get you this money, but I'll hold the gold here in my bank. So Max agrees, yes, we'll let you hold the money in the bank. So he calls up a friend of his that should know where Henry is. This friend says that Henry was just hauled off in an ambulance. And he doesn't know what happened to him, but he was hauled off in an ambulance.
Une seconde.
Now, Max, thinking, of course, that this was something that Angelo and Josie are aware of, Angelo did. He goes to Josie's place to talk to her, and Josie says that Angelo was the one who roughed Riton up a bit. So while Max is doing that, Marco, the guy I talked about in the beginning of the movie, who Max got this job for and is one of his friends, Marco finds one of Angelo's henchmen, and they capture him. They take him down to this basement area, and they start this process where they're going to torture him for information.
Allez, raconte à Pierrot maintenant.
Qu'est-ce que je peux raconter? J'ai rien fait à personne, moi.
Peut-être pour m'offrir des chocolats que tu me guettais, hein? Petit voyou. Allez, raconte.
C'est Angelo qui a tout arrangé. Il voulait savoir où vous avez planqué votre Grisbi, toi, Riton.
But before they can get very far, they don't get that far with their torture process, before they get a phone call from Angelo. Angelo says, we have your friend, we have Henry. If you want him alive, then you will bring the $50 million in gold bars to this area where we're going to meet, and we'll do the exchange.
Henri Riton vivant?
Je t'écoute.
D'abord, je dois te dire que j'ai rien contre Riton ni contre toi. Ce que je veux, c'est votre Grisbi. Et il me le faut d'ici 1 heure ou plus tard. Je vais te passer Riton pour que tu saches qu'il est bien là.
So Max goes to his relative who works at the bank. He gets the $50 million in gold bars. He goes with a couple of his friends in a car. They meet Angelo. They each have someone from their gang. They kind of park away from each other, and then the people from their gang, they meet up, they do the switch, they switch people that they have. Max gives up that guy that they were going to torture and the money, and then Angelo gives up Henry. So after that happens, Max brought a lot of more guns to this in his car. So they get in their car and they start chasing Angelo. They chase him down. They start shooting at him. Now they end up killing everyone in the car except for Angelo. The car runs off an embankment and catches fire. Angelo takes out an explosive from his hand because he's going to throw an explosive at Max to kill him, but the explosive goes off when it's in his hand, and Angelo was with it, so Angelo dies at the end. And then in the car that's burning, that's in Angelo's car, is the $50 million of gold bars. Now Max, of course, is frantic. He needs to get those gold bars because that's what he was going to do to retire. That's his retirement right there. But the cops are on their way, and he doesn't have time to get the money, so he ends up leaving the scene. The next day, the newspapers talk about the fact that Angelo was killed and that there's this money, these gold bars that were kind of like, I don't know if they were destroyed or if I don't know how that works. They destroyed in the heat. They melted down maybe. Anyway, Henry survives, and they get away with nothing, basically. They have no gold, and they're basically back to where they were, only Henry's a little bit more hurt, but they're back to where they were, I'm assuming, before they did the caper where they stole the money. At least financially, they're back to nothing. So, did I like this movie? Did I not like this movie? What did I think about it? I thought this movie was good. It's definitely not as good as Pepe Le Moko is. I thought it was okay. I thought, so to start with Gabin, I thought that his acting was really good. He's more of a subtle actor. He's not someone who's going to get up there and give like a big speech, but when he's on screen, he's doing a very good job of what he's doing. He carries the movie very well. I think he is like considered one of the best French actors of all time, and I can see why. He has this like suave, sophisticated, debonair type of energy that he's giving off, and he's very good in these type of movies where he is the bad guy, you know, where he's trying to get out of somewhere, where he's trying to do something, but he's not like frantic. He's not like a frantic type of actor. He keeps his cool the whole time, which makes the movie very cool and makes the pacing extremely good, extremely well. Now, there was no real scenes in this movie where I don't think they want you to be surprised by anything. There isn't really like something where it's a detective movie where you haven't figured everything out yet. I think pretty early in the movie you can tell that something's going on with Angelo, because Angelo is, you know, with Josie, and they have this money that they took. And you can put two and two together to where things aren't overly complicated, but that's what I like. Whereas in like The Big Heat, which I just reviewed, I felt that there were so many characters that I got so lost with it at some point, because the movie's there's only so many things you can fit into like an hour and a half, an hour 40 minutes, which what these movies usually are. But this movie I thought was better paced, less major characters that you have to keep track of, and there's no curveballs that they throw at you, really. There's nothing that you have to figure out. You know everything. You're just watching it play out on screen, which is something that I really enjoy. The end of the movie was absolutely heartbreaking. I wanted him to have the money. I wanted him to get away with it, even though it's one of those movies where you know he's a criminal, you know what he did was wrong, that he stole money that he shouldn't have stolen, but you still want him to get away with it at the end because of the character that he is. He is a good guy at the end, even though he's a thief. He comes off as like he has a good person, and I wanted him to get away with it, and it was a little heartbreaking that he didn't. But you know, in all honesty, he is a criminal and he probably shouldn't get away with it, but it's a little heartbreaking that he didn't. I wish that he would have. The actors that he's with in this movie, the side actors, are really good. Henry was great in this movie. I thought the guy who played Marco was really good too. You don't see Angelo a whole lot. You see him in the beginning, you see him at the end. What he does in this movie, what he's asked to do, is good. It's not bad. But I don't know, the ending of the movie where they're on the car and they're shooting from car to car, I thought was great too. The cinematography I thought was really good. I don't know though, this movie is just missing something for me that it's hard for me to really put my finger on. Maybe it's not dramatic enough. I felt like it was a good movie, but it wasn't a great movie, if that makes sense. Pepe Le Moco, I feel like has much more suspense. It's much more tense, and even if a movie is simple like this, where it tells you everything you need to know, you don't have to guess a lot, I feel that there can be some sense of suspense too, and I didn't really feel that in this movie. I mean, at the end, where you don't know if he's actually going to be able to, at the end when he's trying to get his money back, maybe a little bit of suspense there, but once the car blows up and it's on fire, you know it's not going to go anywhere, you know that thing's going to happen. So not a whole lot of suspense in this movie, which I think a film noir should have. Should have some moments that are gripping, on the edge of your seat type of stuff. Even in The Big Heat, where the wife's car blew up, suspenseful. I was on the edge of my seat right after that. But in this movie, I didn't really get any edge of my seat type of stuff. It's a smart movie. I think that it's smart that he was able to take the money and hide it away and sit on it for a while. You don't see that a lot in these type of movies. You don't even see that a lot in real life. When you watch like The First 48, Forensic Files, or Dateline or whatever, people usually just take the money and then they just start spending it like crazy. But in this, he was smart, and he was trying to be smart, collected. He was trying to be cool. He was trying to be calculated. But this also goes to show that if you work with someone in these type of crimes, and this is true in later movies, in actual real life, the more people you work with, the harder it actually is to get away with, because someone's going to say something, someone's going to mess up, someone's going to do something that they're not supposed to do. Like with Henry, he bragged to this girl that he stole this money when he wasn't supposed to. If you really want to get away with the perfect crime, you really have to find a way to do it yourself, because in the end, you can't trust everyone. And in this case, he couldn't even trust his best friend, which is true in real life, and I thought that was kind of funny after I thought about it for a while. But this movie, I think it's a good movie. I wouldn't say it's his best because, like I said, Pepe La Mocha was better. Pepe La Mocha was more suspenseful. I thought the directing in this movie was fine, but I don't know. Like I said, I just needed something more of it. There wasn't enough meat on the bone here for me to really love this movie. But all in all, I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. Thank you. I hope you have a good day.